what their next set was going to be in their new tour. And
Really.
I have a letter from him where he called me a clever bleeder.
I was lucky enough for my his birthday. I got to see him in Philadelphia, and it was one of their last U.S. tours, and they're as good. No, they're better live.
Oh yeah, they're a
They're
live band.
yeah,
They're definitely a live band.
they're a live band, and when you hear them, you can't believe how clean the
Correct.
it is. Insane how clean it is. And you and I had a more of a text conversation back and forth, but talking about we were in agreement that he is probably a
Oh,
genius.
he's totally a genius.
Yeah.
Um, when we talked initially, how do I get around this person and get to the real decision maker? Well, schmuck, you don't start there. You start with the decision maker.
That's good
It's
stuff.
it's unbelievable to me. But here's the deal: most people don't have the balls, which is another thing sales takes is balls,
Right.
to be able to get to that decision maker to begin with.
Glenn Ross, Glenn Gary.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at this from a standpoint of I'm willing to walk into any CEO's office and ask the question, do you want to buy now or you want to hear the pitch?
That's awesome.
They're like stunned by that question.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking, and this is a clue for salespeople. I want to make an emotional engagement from the very beginning. I'm not going to ask questions about the weather. I'm not going to try to introduce myself because they've already Googled me. They already know who I am before I ever walk in the door. And I'm going to ask one question of every single person that I engage in a sale. And the question is, where did you just lose feeling in the bottom of your feet? So I have a helper to make sure that I don't fall, and I have preempted. I cashed in on my long-term disability policy for prevention, not for recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to fall and break a hip.
Right.
I want to not trip and not have to. Okay, so I've done that, but I had a very high PSA count. For those of you who are women or don't know about PSA, that's the thing that tells you whether your prostate is right or not. So I decided to go holistic rather than traditional medicine, and I am cured, not being treated.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference.
Yes.
And the holistic people will cure you. Oh yeah, it's
There it is.
recorded.
There it is. All right. We are on the Dr. Smiley Show again, and I get one of my heroes to be on the show, Jeffrey Gitomer. He is a sales trainer. He has 17 books that are bestsellers, and dad, grandfather, the whole nine yards,
Yeah,
and a Ravens fan to boot. I mean, we were talking before
yeah,
the
yeah. Two of my favorite things in the world are Ravens fans and wars.
Well, Jeffrey, this is a dream come true. I met you some 20 years ago, and you're doing such great things all the time. But you've led several lives, and what I love about you is you recreate, rebrand, and you actually grow into a new Jeffrey Gitomer. So I wanted to acknowledge you for that. I don't always wear red. I wore red for you today
Thank
because
you very kindly.
one of my favorite books is this one. I think out of the 17, I have nine of your books, and
Cool. I can arrange, for a very small fee, you can get the rest autographed so that when I'm dead, you can go on eBay.
I would love to visit you and take advantage of that offer. And I want to say, just so we have an unpredictable show, you wouldn't have guessed that I would have this card handy that you gave
Oh,
me
wow, cool.
some 20 years ago,
Oh
and
my God.
and brilliant, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And then just to show you how, I guess, creative and inventive this person is.
Oh, you got the trash can. Cool.
Well,
Love that.
I like celebrating people that think outside the box or think outside the can. So, um,
I'll tell you, I used that as a sales technique where I challenge salespeople to go in and give the customer their brochure and the trash can to throw it away in.
yes,
That was at the time was exceptionally innovative.
yes.
No one has brochures anymore. Everything's electronic.
Well, there's a guy named. Have you ever heard of Mitch Hedberg, the comedian? He was a
Mhm.
heroin addict. He
Mhm.
one of my
Yeah,
top.
they're my favorite people.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. So it was an amazing person. So in my top 5 jokes of his, he says, "Here's a brochure, you throw it out."
Yeah, exactly. I say, here's my brochure. Please don't shred it till I leave.
So the thing that I guess personally I really like about you is you were in the rock life, you were in the music world, and you created concerts. And one of my favorite, and I think one of your favorites, is Jeff Lynne. And I celebrated his genius forever. So I'd like to start there in the conversation, but we're going to go all over the place in this.
Okay, sure.
So, how did you come up with a crazy idea that I can host and create a concert?
I was in a movie theater with my first wife, and I was watching the group Wishbone Ash, and they had just sold tickets in a movie theater. Um, I was in a movie theater with my wife watching a rock concert, and the lead group was Wishbone Ash. And I looked at my wife and I said, "We can do this." All they did is rent the theater, hire a band, and sell tickets. How hard can that possibly be? So I go to New York and I went to ABC. I can't really remember I can remember that the guy was a liar and a whore, but I can't remember the name of the promotion company. It was the biggest one at the time.
Yeah, but what didn't you like about them?
Uh, they had ELO,
Oh my
and
goodness.
and for $2,500, I could buy ELO and give a concert. Well, they were already my Jesus of music,
I know.
and so here I am. The concert was going to be held in Wildwood, New Jersey. Um, and the headline act was going to be a different band than came. That's why the guy was a whore. He put his own group in. It was a horrible thing. It was going to be the Marshall Tucker Band.
Mm,
Good.
wow.
Then he put in some useless group. It was horrible. But meanwhile, I'm hanging with ELO. We drove from Philly to Wildwood, which is, 90-minute drive, and ELO's in my car. I'm talking to Jeff Lynne. It was like, and I knew everything. I knew the move. I knew every
Yeah.
song. Okay.
Roy Wood. I mean, the whole
Yeah.
nine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So they're doing their sound check, and I said, "Hey, can you play this?" And they go, "Sure." I said, "Hey, can you play this?" And they go, "Sure." So I had my own sound check,
Daggone.
and we just became friends. And I would travel around the country and go to their concerts. They'd put me in their limo. We'd eat dinner after the event and have a good time. They were not druggies. They were not alcoholics. They drank a little bit, but they were footballers. They're British footballers. Here's a true story. We're at the Jacksonville Hilton to see the show where they were the opening act for Deep Purple.
No way.
And I'm hanging in the room with Jeff Lynne and a couple of the other guys, Bevan. And I make a paper airplane out of the stationery that was there, and I heave it off the porch. And Jeff Lynne does it, and he heaves it off the porch. And I said, "Mine went further than yours did." And he calls down and he goes, "I want 500 pieces of stationery, please." And we all made paper airplanes and threw them. The parking lot was full of paper airplanes. That's innocent fun. We didn't wreck the room, but we had a great time. And the Woody Allen line of "you're only young once, but you can always be immature" came into play at that particular moment. But I had my own seat at a concert with them. Like there's the stage, and then there's no man's land, and then there's the audience. My seat was in no man's land.
Mm.
I'm the only one sitting there, unless I had someone with me. But just think about that.
I'm blown away.
Yeah, I've lived my rock and roll fantasies. Just totally lived them. And I used to make them shirts for because I was in the t-shirt business, and
I remember.
I'd make them like 48 shirts and then break the screen so there are only those shirts. So some of those shirts are laying around somewhere. And how risque am I allowed to get?
As much as you want because it's you.
Good. One year I made them for the roadies, and it said no head, no backstage pass. And there were fist fights over these shirts. So I had a great time. I wasn't an abuser. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't, I did none of that crap. I didn't do any kind of drugs. They were high. They were my high. They were my total high.
Well, I remember in I can only imagine the movie. I can only imagine he's playing the cassette of Out of the Blue, and that became one of the biggest songs of all time. It crossed all genres, and the reason I
Yeah.
bring this up is they picked an ELO song for him to put in the cassette that gave him the juice to come up with
Yeah.
a song as brilliant as that, right?
I, um, we corresponded with handwritten letters,
Hmm.
and I would send him what their next set was going to be in their new tour. And
Really,
I have a letter from him where he called me a clever bleeder.
I was lucky enough for my 50th birthday. I got to see him in Philadelphia, and it was one of their last U.S. tours, and they're as good. No, they're better live.
Oh yeah, they're a
They,
live band.
yeah,
They're definitely a live band.
they're a live band, and when you hear them, you can't believe how clean the
Correct.
it is. Insane how clean it is. And you and I had a more of a text conversation back and forth, but we were talking about we were in agreement that he is probably a genius.
Oh, he's totally a genius.
Yeah,
Um, think of when we talked initially, they were at my home, and I said, "Here's my record collection. Pick what you want to play. I want to know what you want." So he picks the Drifters because
really.
they had violins in their
Yeah.
doo-wop, and he picks the Beatles. And I said, "What's with the Beatles?" He goes, "It's everyone's favorite band. They just don't admit it." And so he was talking about they do one Beatles song on every tour.
Mhm.
Day Tripper, Lady Madonna. I mean, unbelievable songs. And so then he goes out and meets George Harrison and they do the Traveling Wilburys.
Right.
And
Exactly.
he used to check into rooms as a Wilbury. He was Jeff Wilbury.
Yeah. So actually, I want to go that direction for a second. So
Sure.
if it wasn't for Jeff, there would be no traveling Wilburys first and foremost. But
Correct.
he talked to George and said, "Who's your pick?" And they each picked the
Yeah,
people all the way
exactly.
down.
Um, but Dylan was in the fucking group.
I know.
I mean,
Roy Orbison. Come on. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And there's one video where where after he died, they put his guitar in the chair.
really.
Yeah, God, Roy Orbison was it. Black and White Night is arguably the definitive Roy Orbison video
Mm,
because the people, Springsteen was his, backup singer.
right.
Um, and James Burton was the lead guitar player. And James Burton played for Elvis and Ricky Nelson.
Well, I don't want to ruin my chances of you connecting Jeff to me or any chance, any possibility at all, and him even just saying hello on my show. But
Okay, cool.
I want to say that it's interesting that all he did was genius albums his whole life. And then we get to
Yeah,
Traveling Wilburys, genius. Then he helps each of them do their best albums in a
of
long
course.
time.
Oh, yeah. Tom
But
Petty.
but then he does Big Chair, and it's not what I would call his best work. I'll
Well,
just
yeah, I'm going to say that there's a video on YouTube of Jeff Lynne's 50 best songs. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I know.
So you look at this, here's this musical genius. Okay, so here's one brag, okay? We're at dinner one night in Indianapolis. We're just talking about the groups and the songs and what he did and how he did it. And we're just waxing music. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm surprised you never did anything in music. And I'm
Wow,
like, okay, so that's all I ever needed to hear in my entire life. I'm fine now.
that's
I'm,
fantastic.
yeah, just cool guy and fun, easygoing. Didn't want to play if he didn't want to play, did want to play if he did want to play. He's a great guitar player. Just a great guitar player. and played a Les Paul Gibson, of course. You know, what else would you play if you're in that position? But when I went to watch them, I could get all my own songs in their sound check. You
Is,
play Feel Too Good, play, California Man. Okay.
is he still doing any private concerts or
I
anything?
don't know. I have not talked to him in a few years.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll revitalize that conversation. I would love to go with you
I'm
specifically.
Listen, we were genuine friends.
I know, I know. The show is really about you, but when we hit that nerve of my hero and your hero being Jeff Lynne, I just
Yeah.
want to say it could dominate the show. And if you wanted to come back, I would be all too honored. You came to Maryland some 20 years ago. I had a little company called Perfect Networker, and I was allowed to be a sponsor at the event. And I got some pictures of you. I shook your hand,
Yeah,
and
cool. Cool.
and I said, I hope one day I get to know this man more, because you really, when you bring it on a stage, no one would say, wow, he's really fluffing it up a little bit, or there's not a lot of
No,
meat.
no. And then what I found is now I'm a little older, and so I can get away with more. I can drop a few more F-bombs and you know what I mean? I can let audiences have it. But um, at my age, my focus this year is on AI
I saw that on your
because
Instagram.
I'm not going to be left in the dust by some dork.
So it's Gitomer AI, right? Gitomer
Yeah.
AI,
Yeah.
Gitomer dot AI.
Yep.
So since we went there first, let's talk about that. What is Gitomer AI, and why'd you do it? Well, I
I
know
took
let's
I
talk.
took everything that I have ever recorded or everything I've ever written, and I put it into one hopper.
Hmm,
And it's proprietary so that you can't go on ChatGPT and find me. Well, you can find me there, but it's guaranteed not to be accurate.
hmm.
It's in their limitation statement. And my AI is guaranteed to be accurate, and it's in any language. And because it's proprietary, you can't just get it. You have to subscribe to it. So that's what I put as the barrier to being able to play with me. Well, it's a very expensive process, and my subscription is way too high. It should be $99 a year, but I have to charge $600 a year in order to make my ends meet. So I got to figure out a way to make it cheaper, so that it becomes more affordable. But that's one of the things that I'm doing during the course of this year to be able to make my legacy get to the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. That's where I'm at.
Well, I love the fact that you know the numbers, and
Yeah.
hopefully I can assist in some way, shape, or form. I wanted to bring. I have all the books, but being the disorganized person that I am, sometimes I'll just say that I don't
Cool.
have all of them handy. What is your favorite of your 17 you wrote?
Probably my favorite is the Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude because it's as autobiographical as anything I've ever done.
Hmm.
Um, and it talks about, to me, attitude is the foundation for learning. If you're open and receptive and happy, you're going to learn more, and if you don't, you're not gonna.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
it is such a pleasurable book to read for
yeah,
anyone with ADHD or anything that
yeah,
won't turn a page. And I mean, you got your ouches in there. I mean, I physically feel it when I get those ouches too.
yeah, yeah. It's a real good book, and there's personal episodes in there. My daughter, if you go to page, shit, I want to say 183, but I'm not 100% positive.
I'm checking. I don't know if it goes that high.
Yeah, it does.
It does. I'm at 180.
Morgan Spills a Yes is the title of it. And there's a story there. I'm eating in Einstein's Bagels with my granddaughter, Morgan, and her mother and another sister.
Yep.
And she spills her drink all over everything when the meal comes. I mean, everything. And she goes like this, first spill of the day. And I said, okay. I said, okay, that's a lesson for everybody forever.
Yes.
Morgan is now 25 years old. She's a physician's assistant. She's making two a year, and she just had a baby. So she's my second great granddaughter. I have four daughters, four granddaughters, and two great granddaughters. But Morgan is the brightest of the children, and it's wonderful to watch them mature. But her attitude has stayed with her the entire time,
Hmm.
and to me, that's everything.
I don't know who said this, but it was something to this effect. Everyone has an attitude, so pick the one you want. Like
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
you have this one right here. I'll just say, and I love the fact you disperse. attitudes and epiphanies and mic drops and all that stuff all
Yeah.
throughout the book. And it's color, and you got some cool. Who's your illustrator that you stayed with all the time?
I used a guy named Randy Glassbergen, and he has passed.
He did a lot of stuff in the big papers too, right?
Yeah, he was good illustrator, but
So,
he very overweight, very diabetic, and died.
well, I'll just read this one for fun. Once you figure out that attitude is a gift and a blessing, it is my hope that you give it to yourself and you bless others forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always loved the fact you come up with your own stuff, and
Oh yeah.
it's good
Well,
stuff.
listen, there's very little new under the sun, but I think Ken that there is an ability to reword or wordsmith things to make them feel like it fits you, it fits yourself. So I'm a writer. I'm not an author. And I wake up in the morning and I write. And I don't, I've been doing it every day for the last 30 years. So it's not like it's not like, and I've written a book on how to write. I only give it to my clients who are writing books. Um, and I help them write their book, but it's like 40 pages of exactly what I do and
Hmm.
how I get the words across and what you need to look for and what you need to look out for, how you start something, how you end something, and what goes in the middle. And if you notice, I have lists, and my lists end in point five every time because that's my trademark.
Right.
And and I've managed to be able to sell, fortunately, millions of books that have have blessed me literally all over the world.
Yeah. So you bless the books, you bless the people that read the
Yeah.
books.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
of course, it's full circle. Um, you've been around the sales game a long time. So
Yep.
I want to address something that you're gifted for, which is the sales master, the king of sales. So first page starts here, and it says what are sales. So um, you have a couple of different interpretations, but since you've been around since this book, I'd like your maybe new answer to that.
Well, selling has gotten sophisticated by people that can't do shit. They have all these programs, the sales enablement. I defy you to define that. I think it's the biggest hoax perpetrated on the sales community. Um, CRM has been overtaken by Salesforce that has 900 things you can add to your Salesforce program, all of which are designed to, quote, help salespeople sell better, but they don't tell you how to close a sale.
Hmm.
They tell you who to call on Thursday at 9 o'clock. They tell you to send this guy an email. They might even help you write the email, but they still can't close a fucking sale, period. And so I grew up in New York selling. I grew up in
You
Philly.
can barely
I
tell.
grew up in Philadelphia, but I sold in New York City, where fuck you is a greeting and everybody wants a bribe. And so well, you're from the land of sissies in Baltimore, uh, which is the only thing that happened good in Baltimore was wrestling titles usually changed hands in Baltimore. There'll always be a new world champion.
Yes,
And um, I'm a big wrestling fan myself. I grew up with wrestling, professional wrestling. I'm friends with Nikita Koloff. We're like literally brothers here in Charlotte.
that's awesome.
We've been friends for 30 years. Um, but the bottom line there is that the people that are involved in the sales game, it is a game today, have people that have never made 100 cold calls, or have people that have never been to New York City, or people that don't really understand the process other than I got to make 100 calls today. I got to do these mass emails. And they don't understand where the value is. Where is the perceived value and what is your perceived difference? Because if you have no, and there's a third part, there's a point five of that. The
Hmm.
point five is where's your social proof?
Right.
So perceived difference, perceived value, and social proof. Those are the three elements that no one talks about.
100%. 100%.
So that's where I'm looking at, and I laugh at these people,
So
literally.
let's dissect that just a little minute here. So you had three components. One was social proof, perceived
Yeah.
value. What was another one?
Perceived difference.
Perceived difference. Okay.
How are you different than the other guy?
Yep.
What's my perception of your value in the offering? And can you prove it to me?
Right.
That,
So
that that's the essence of selling. There's no enablement. There's no cold call. There's no either. It's all fucking bullshit. And because it's bullshit, someone's going to buy it. Some sales manager is going to check a box that he's provided training for his people. Yeah, they're cold calling like they're supposed to, like I did when I was, yeah. Like I've made 2,500 speeches to corporate America in the last 25 years. I never made a sales call
Right.
ever. I didn't call you for this, did I?
You did not.
No, correct. I don't call anybody. I provide value to the marketplace. They perceive my value. They perceive that I'm different, and they call me
So let me
every day. Every day.
so let me throw in something that I came as kind of a big epiphany in my deep studies during the pandemic of like, what can I learn during this pandemic that I'm not really out there?
Mm-hmm.
I came up with something way simpler than yours, but I'm looking at how simple my one was that's connected to what you actually just said. Okay. So I came up with conversion happens when inspiration and social proof are high. So,
Yeah.
and so inspiration is your answer is that it's value perceived and differential, meaning you're feeling different about it and you're feeling it, right?
Right. There's an unknown thing here though. And the unknown or the unspoken thing is, am I able to transfer my message to that buyer where they say, I get it, I agree with it, I think I can do this, I'm willing to try it, or I'm willing to buy it. If they don't say that, then your communication skills are weak.
Mm.
You have to have great communication skills. You have to have the enthusiasm. You have to have the attitude. You have to have the deep belief in order to be able to make that happen. And if you don't, you're in trouble.
So let's talk about sales cycle real quick.
Okay.
So there's some people that do the follow-up game, and you put that in your book pretty
Yeah.
well about how to do the right kind of follow-up. But I would argue that if you hit a home run out of the gate, it is not going to need a lot of follow-up. You're actually in the close. Is that correct?
Well, let's go back before we get to follow up.
Okay.
Who are you presenting to? So
Oh,
I begin at the CEO level and I work my way down, as opposed to other people that come in the easiest path where they'll talk to a manager or they'll talk to a team leader and they have to work their way up. And
mm.
then I get an email to Jeffrey, how do I get around this person and get to the real decision maker? Well, schmuck, you don't start there. You start with the decision maker.
That's good
It's
stuff.
it's unbelievable to me. But here's the deal. Most people don't have the balls, which is another thing sales takes is balls,
Right.
to be able to get to that decision maker to begin with.
Glenn Ross, Glenn Gary.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at this from a standpoint of I'm willing to walk into any CEO's office and ask the question, you want to buy now or you want to hear the pitch?
That's awesome.
They're like stunned by that question.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking, and this is a clue for salespeople. I want to make an emotional engagement from the very beginning. I'm not going to ask questions about the weather. I'm not going to try to introduce myself because they've already Googled me. They already know who I am before I ever walk in the door. And I'm going to ask one question of every single person that I engage in a sale. And the question is, where did you grow up?
Mm.
Not where are you from? Where did you grow up? Because if they grew up in a small town, they're going to be more trusting. If they grew up in a big city, they're not going to be trusting at all. And then depending on where geographically they're located, I may have something that I can talk to them about. I may have lived there. I may have traveled there. I may know some things about it. I talked to a guy from San Francisco last night, and the first thing I say is, have you ever eaten at the Tatich Grill? The Tatich Grill is at the bottom of California. It's the best food in America, the
Mm.
best seafood in America. And they go, oh, yeah. And now we have something immediately in common that we can talk about.
That's beautiful.
Immediately. And interestingly, at the Tatich Grill, they don't take reservations. You go in, you give your name to the bartender, and then you stand up against the wall, similar to what you would do at the Apple Pan in Los Angeles. And when it's your turn, you kind of know. It's like your turn. Like, hey, you don't know, there's no argument. Hey, I was next. There's none of that shit. You just know it's your turn to go. It's pretty cool.
It is very cool. You got I'm sure your library is pretty vast of books that
Oh
you
yeah.
consumed, and you have
Yeah.
some behind you. Don't see any that because my eyes are not that great. What are some of your favorites over there?
Let me move this podcast to another room. Is that okay?
That's fine, of course. And while you're doing that, I'll give you a small treat. I'll show you. There's a book I did called My First 60 Years. And while you're traveling, I'll just say, Keep Smiling's in 45 languages, and you'll be happy to know
Oh, cool.
it's in New York too. Look at that. Do you see it? It says,
Yes, I
Hey, you,
love that.
hey, you,
I
keep
go
smiling.
go back to the full screen.
Okay, you got it.
This is my library, and it has 11,500 books in it.
And that's the
History
point
of
five.
sales and the history of personal development. But this past year, I created a room for myself, a reading room. And what I did, I want to make sure I get this and plug it in right
So I'm
away.
guessing that you guys have a pretty vast music library too.
Oh yeah. But it's in storage. No one plays a record anymore.
Do you remember Joel Whitburn?
Maybe.
Joel Whitburn came up with the top 100 record books. I
Oh
see
yeah.
Steve Jobs.
I have a couple of them. Okay, so in this room are the books that have inspired me. And it's my reading room.
Mm-hmm.
I read here and I write here. But um, Oscar Wilde, uh,
What's your favorite quote by Oscar Wilde, or favorite thing he said?
be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
Love that one. That is one of my favorites too. I love his outside of a dog, outside of a book, a dog's best friend, but inside a dog, it's two dogs
Exactly.
read.
No, he's a brilliant guy. But I have Boy Scout stuff because it's my slogan has always been be prepared.
Yeah,
Um, I have books on thinking. I have Neville Goddard, who I follow. Mark Eaton, who's a real good friend of mine. Florence Scovel Shinn, um, autograph book on the game of life and how to play it. Uh,
that's a great book.
Little Engine That
I just
Could.
I just pulled that book this morning.
Huh?
I just pulled that book.
Oh,
How to
yeah.
yeah the game of life, how to play it. Yeah, that's a great book. I could go to my desk and go get it. It's so crazy. That is a great book.
Well, the game of life and how to play it. This is an early edition. Your word is your wand.
Hmm.
Here is her autograph. Try to find one of those.
Wow.
I also have the game of life and how to play it autographed. And I collect that stuff because it's inspiring. You have these books are like fucking magic,
Yes, they are.
and so we're sitting in my own reading room. The cat will come over and she'll hang over here. And I have art on the wall um, that inspires me. There's a Daniel Webster. See the Wicked Witch?
I do.
Okay, that's Margaret Hamilton. When she played the Wicked Witch when she was 19 years old.
Wow.
Underneath of that is a cookbook by Cora, the Maxwell House coffee lady, also Margaret Hamilton, 50 years later.
So I live in Baltimore. I know you don't have any respect for the city, but you got to have respect, hopefully, for the person that actually has been around the world. So I've been around the world. So I would, if you invite me to Charlotte, I would love to just.
Sure, come over.
That's an amazing library.
Yeah, this is like ooh, but it's all the Napoleon Hill books. It's my sales guy Elmer Letterman. I mean, this is just magic for me.
Do you
And
remember?
I don't invite people over. People come. I live in a building, in a condo building. I live in the old Lance Cracker Factory, and I live in 8 of the units. I've knocked through walls and put in staircases and stuff. But no one from the building is allowed in my place because I don't want to be a roomer.
Hmm.
Just you go stay away. If you need a cup of sugar, go to the fucking grocery store. But for me, my guests come here. People from around the world come here and hang out with me for a day or 2 days or whatever. And that's the magic.
That is the magic. I remember a gentleman, Charlie Tremendous Jones.
Sure.
So he speaks to what you're sharing right now, which is the difference between where you are today and where you'll be 5 years from now, or the
Here's
book.
Charlie Jones's shelf.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he was my mentor.
Was he really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, he said something. Well, his daughter told me he said something when he walked down the street. Whether someone was smiling or not, he said, "Thanks for smiling." And two things would
Yeah.
happen: they'd either smile or they.
He Charlie Jones was a classic, literally a living legendary classic.
I learned about him through you because you put a quote in your book, I believe, from
Yeah.
Charlie Tremendous Jones, and I thought it was your quote. Originally, I put you in my very first book as the quote by you, and then I had Bob Berg of all people tell me that's Charlie
Charlie
Tremendous.
Jones. I've still maintained relationships with Tracy. We talk maybe once a week. Um, I try to stay in touch with people that I love, admire, or both.
Right. I think it was in your black book you had that particular quote, if I recall.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's some of your challenges you've overcome? And what I'm looking at is this show's about inspiration. It's about hope, and people that are hopeless don't see there's a pathway
Yeah.
past. So, do you have a challenge you want to share?
Sure. Um, I am 79, even though I don't look it. And I have neuropathy, which is just you just lose feeling in the bottom of your feet. So I have a helper to make sure that I don't fall. And I have preempted. I cashed in on my long-term disability policy for prevention, not for recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to fall and break a hip.
Right.
I want to not trip and not have to. Okay, so I've done that, but I had a very high PSA count. For those of you who are women or don't know about PSA, that's the thing that tells you whether your prostate is right or not. So I decided to go holistic rather than traditional medicine, and I am cured, not being treated.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference.
Yes.
And the holistic people will cure you. The medical people will treat you.
Right.
They have a pill for everything.
Yes.
And now, and I don't care what your political persuasions are, but there's a guy in charge of Health and Human Services now that I think will revitalize the way Americans eat and drink and are treated by the medical profession. Because for a long time it's been pretty bad. I had an uncle who was a doctor. I always went in the back door of a medical office. I never went in the front door. And I'd sit in a room. My uncle would come in, treat us, whatever. But now it's like a whole different thing. I didn't get vaccinated, by the way, for the people that are wondering did I get it. There's no fucking way I'm going to do that thing. And look what happened.
Right. I
Yeah,
know.
look what happened. Yeah, we're gonna pay that price for a long time.
Yeah, it's sad. It is very sad. If the man upstairs wanted it to happen, it would have been already made for us.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm big on health. I'm big on, getting ready. My challenges right now are live to 100.
You're gonna go for it?
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you remember Stephen Wright? He says,
Yeah,
he said, I want to live forever. So far, so good.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
I saw him do a nightclub act in Vegas. He is hysterical.
His timing is insane. Plus,
Yeah.
he's completely deadpan.
Yeah. I have favorite comedians at the moment. It's Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle. Those are my two current faves. But
I'm glad Dave Chappelle's not from Baltimore. Otherwise, you wouldn't like him. He's from DC.
yeah, exactly. But he's funny as hell. And then Norm Macdonald, of course, is like an all-time favorite of mine. Just
Chappelle reminds me of you a little bit because you can't tell Chappelle how it's going to work. He doesn't want that to have any impedance on how he lives.
right. He makes fun of himself and he makes fun of his own genre. And he's just naturally, he's a gifted, funny person. But the reason I like him as much as I do is he's the best storyteller in America.
100%. 100%.
Literally the best. His timing is impeccable. Unbelievable guy.
Well, also his layering, you don't see it coming
Yeah.
back. And so he architects a story, not
Oh
just
yeah.
his ability to tell stories, but his architecture of it is just incredible.
If you want to see the funniest bit, it's the one where he pans Jussie Smollett. Um, it's 10 minutes of heaven storytelling comedy. He's unbelievable. It's the
Jesse, what?
best thing I've ever seen.
What was it? Jesse, what?
Jussie Smollett, that guy that was he faked his own.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Monty Python? Do you like that at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a big John Cleese fan. In fact, if you want to see the thing, when Graham Chapman died, John Cleese delivered the eulogy. Oh my God. Oh my God. Drop the F-bomb. I mean, it was phenomenal. John Cleese is arguably the most irreverent human being on the planet. And hold on.
I have his big DVD thing called Faces. That's a really interesting one. Do you watch The Cheese Shop?
No.
That was one of his bits on Monty Python. I'll have to send you that one. I think it's a fave from mine.
But his book on creativity is marvelous.
Book on creativity. Okay.
Yeah. I thought I had it right here, but I don't.
So you have a podcast.
Yeah, called Sell or Die.
Yeah, that's a great name.
Yeah. So it's like 3.5 million downloads.
So sell or die. What would you say the percentage of people that are gifted that go the distance in sales?
I've not met a lot of them.
Would you agree that well first what would you say is the
I'm
distinct
prejudiced about that, but I want someone who's natural.
right?
And then I have philosophies like I love Jeb Blunt. He's one of the nicest guys who ever lived. But he's
Yes,
a cold caller,
right,
and I'm not a cold caller. So we'll do point counterpoint on cold calling. But he's made a fortune teaching people how to cold call. I'm not going to poo-poo that.
right.
You
Yeah,
know,
and if that's your direction, he's a good
yeah,
pathway.
then you fucking go there.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like he likes his bacon hardly done, and I like mine well done, and that really defines it. It's the same bacon.
right.
It's just different strategies to prepare it to eat, and same different strategies to prepare to sell. Like I don't do a lot of data research because I'm not a data-driven human being. I'm a human connector, and data doesn't connect anyone humanly at all.
Agreed.
So what does your data say? Well, I don't give a fuck what the data says because I'm going to go to New York and I'll sell something you can't sell. Plain and simple.
What are you selling now?
My AI, that's all. But actually, I am looking for investors. My library has about 5,000 books that are out of print.
Hmm.
I'm going to scan them. I'm going to put them into a Kindle type of program where you can read it and you can comment on it, but you can't download it. And I'm going to sell subscriptions to my library. You can get a library card to the Jeffrey Gitomer Library for $100 a year.
Do you know a guy named Barry Shore?
No. Yeah, actually I do.
He's my mentor. He's the ambassador of joy. He's a pretty clever guy.
Is he in California? Where is
He
that?
he was in Hollywood, Beverly Hills. Then he moved to Las Vegas.
Oh,
I
yeah, I've talked to him a couple times on the phone.
permission to put you guys together again.
Sure. Yeah, I would
You
love that.
I just when I hear some of the things you're saying, I think he'd have some spins that would actually elevate and escalate.
Yeah. I'm only looking for $1 million. Then I'll take a partner on and
Mhm.
I'll split the money somewhat, not a full split, but a good split. But it's money forever.
Right.
No one's going to cancel their subscription. Once they're in, they're in.
I agree. Um, let's see. What's your big play that you haven't done? What's your big goal that you haven't done?
Really not a lot. I'm more of a Europe person than I am an American person because they have civilized people and there's no such thing as day old bread. Um, so I go to Paris every year and spend about a month.
You speak
I'm gonna
French?
be spending more, probably going to go for like 2 months. and just like travel around Europe. I have a lot of friends in various countries, and I want to, get them deeper. And my AI will help me because it's in any language.
Do you parlay?
I can parlay about 1,000 words, but I'm weak on verbs. So, but I have a perfect accent. So I'll go in and tell people that I'd like this, and they realize that I'm fucking American, and they come back at English. But if I go in English, they'll never talk to me.
Right. It's called respect.
Yeah. So I understand. I can speak German. I lived in Berlin for a while.
That's interesting. I lived in the other side of Germany for 5 years because I was an army brat. Steve Martin. I just love his little
He's
gig.
amazing.
Yeah,
He's
he is.
freaking amazing.
He says the French. It's like they have a word for everything. And then he says,
Yeah, exactly.
and then he says, I don't see what the big deal is about learning French. You just go to Paris and you say, I would like to go to the hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Martin Short are probably my two uh, look up to people, just in terms of how innovative they were.
Yeah,
And Martin Short is still, if you go and watch Jiminy Glick, um, he's hysterical.
he is.
He's just hysterical, and he is, I don't know. I've never met him. I've never met Martin. I'd love to, but I met Albert Brooks. I've met some of the people that I really love, but the bottom line there is that comedians are a different breed of people.
Have you met Chappelle?
No,
I
nor
went.
have I met Bill Burr. But I'm really good friends with a guy named Steve Rizzo, and I just went to the 99th birthday party of Johnny Carson.
Really?
Yeah, and Pat Hazel is the guy that put the whole thing together, and he wrote for Seinfeld for 8 years.
That's amazing.
So I'm one call away from pretty much anybody. And the guy there was the reason I went was to honor Pat, of course, but Lance Burton was there. And Lance Burton is a magician in Vegas for like 30 years. And he had these doves, and he would pull these fucking birds out of his ass the whole night, from his pants pocket or from and it was just unbelievable. It was just absolutely unbelievable. And so I got to hang with him. Yeah, Rizzo. Exactly.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Funny. He's funny as hell. And by the way, he's seen all the greats. He's seen. I mean, he's
Oh
one.
yeah.
He's the Frank Sinatra, like Rat Pack guy who's seen all of them.
Yeah, he was the weekend guy on Rodney Dangerfield's club.
Exactly. And he told me how it was just a really interesting story about Rodney Dangerfield, that he was unhappy because it took him so long to get to that stage, and yet
Yeah.
he was crushing it. And Steve was like, "Doesn't matter when you get there. I mean, you're there."
Yeah, Rodney was always unhappy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I Rizzo and I talk 4 times a week.
Really?
Oh yeah.
How about Gaffigan? You haven't mentioned him. Do you like
No,
Gaffigan? Not as much.
I don't know.
Jim Gaffigan?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Together,
he's
I'm
kind
more
of a
than
clever
happy
guy.
to, yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. But um, I typically don't make a call out. I typically wait for the call to come in, and because I just don't want to, like, let me introduce myself. I'm a really cool guy, and that's not where I'm at this point.
Well, I would love to witness your library, come down and visit you, get a
Yeah,
keep smiling shot. I want to close the show out with 5 questions I like to ask that just kind of
sure.
lets people know how the programming goes in your head and in your heart. So what book would you identify as the book that changed your life?
Atlas Shrugged.
Isn't that amazing? Freaking amazing. Yeah.
I have in up here on the top shelf uh are the books that have inspired me, and both Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead are there.
Yep.
The Atlas Shrugged is first edition, and the Fountainhead is a signed first edition by Ayn Rand.
And it is, isn't it bordering on one of the most sold books ever?
Oh yeah.
And
I wore my Who is John Galt shirt just yesterday.
did you?
Yeah.
What movie do you reach for that inspires you?
Thousand Clowns.
Thousand Clowns.
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Robards. It is a New York City book about a dropout. It is funny, poignant, and real.
Awesome.
Other than that, I would pick Love and Death by Woody Allen.
Noted. Okay, so because I know you're an ELO fan, I would
Yeah.
like to ask two questions that are music. One is what is your favorite ELO song, and then what's your favorite song of all time?
My favorite ELO song, that's pretty interesting because there's a ton of them. But I would have to say the live version of Roll Over Beethoven, which is not a Jeff Lynne song, it's a Chuck Berry song,
That's right. That's right.
is is the unbelievable song. But Mama Bell, which is was
Interesting.
yeah, it's just a great song. But ELO sang Strange Magic to my 4-year-old daughters live on stage in DuQuoin, Illinois.
That's so you know that Face the Music and No Answer, that's the same.
Yeah,
So, you know the reason for that? Do you remember the trivia?
no, no.
So, so Face the Music was the UK version, and when the record company was calling ELO and saying, "Hey, we want to bring it to the US," they didn't get an answer, so they wrote No Answer, and so the
Oh,
record.
I got it.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, Face the Music is we did a shirt for them with the electric chair.
Yeah.
And the shirt said, "Have a seat. The Electric Light Orchestra will be with you in a moment," and just gave those shirts to the group.
So back to them singing to your granddaughter. Is that what it was? Your daughter?
Yeah, we were there. I rode in the limo with them to the thing because I was living in Indiana at the time, and we're on. It was at the racetrack in DuQuoin, and the racetrack separated the audience from us. So he said, "We'll just hang on the stage," and that was those were our seats. And I said, "Well, look, Strange Magic is my kid's favorite song. Just bring them out when you just sing it to him." And he goes, "Sure." And he brings them out. They're fucking standing there while Jeff Lynne's singing to him.
Did they remember that? Is that like
No, there were four.
okay? Yeah, because that is
I
a
do.
yeah, that's a life changer.
Oh, totally. And they uh it's funny when you listen to rock music that's loud, it affects your hearing. And they were affected and they didn't say I can't hear, they said I can't talk. Nothing comes out.
That's crazy.
It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. But I do have my second person in music is Leonard Cohen. Uh,
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
Followed closely by Dylan, but Leonard Cohen is the epitome.
Yeah,
And
he's
if
badass.
you watch his live performances, which I saw twice, once in Vegas and once in New Orleans, in his later years, oh my God, people are crying, people are screaming. I mean, it was unbelievable how many lives he's affected.
He was so poetic.
He's a poet.
Yeah, just phenomenal. Um, yeah, that is that's a great remark. Who's
Never
a
met him either. Would die to me. He's dead, but he's one of the ones I would have wished I could have met.
well that actually transitions to my next question.
Yeah.
Who's your hero?
I'm surrounded here by heroes. Charlie Jones, Earl Nightingale, Elmer Letterman,
Hmm.
um, Albert Hubbard. That there's not one person that I go, oh shit, look at it. This guy's like the it of it, because there's 20 of them.
I know, I see. How
And
many?
Oscar Wilde, is he my hero? Yeah, he had a couple of flaws, but if you ever visit his gravesite at Père Lachaise in Paris, it's unbelievable.
Hmm.
He was monumental in
Yes.
his time. He just had tragic flaws, and a lot of people have that. But when I go to Paris, it's like I want to go to these places. I want to cry. This is my favorite piece of art in the world. It's the two sisters at the piano, the Renoir, and I'll sit and look at that painting for half an hour and then start to cry.
Yeah, but the thing about the tragic flaws is he's not him. I think that's without the tragic flaws, he's not. He was a risk taker in every way, and his mind was like over
Oh
the
yeah,
top.
way out there.
Yeah. So
Yeah, way out there.
when someone wants to chop that away, they're chopping him. They don't get him at all.
Correct.
So
I'm also a fan of The Little Engine That Could. I have all kinds of first editions of that book.
that's cool.
And yeah, and people have no understanding of the history. It actually came out in 1919, not 1930, and Waddy Piper was not a human being. It was Arnold Monk disguised as, but it was Platinum Monk was the publisher, and Arnold Monk didn't want to say that he's the writer and the publisher, and he didn't actually write it. He found a
Hmm.
manuscript. No one knows who wrote it.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a trivia
Yeah,
encyclopedia.
I'm good at useless information.
I,
Very good at it.
I,
I'm a
I
master of nothing.
well, I hope you've heard a couple zingers in here that I attempt to be. Who would you like to meet that you haven't met?
In today's, this is so funny. Um, I don't want to be political about this at all, but um, I gave a talk in Minneapolis at one of those talk rallies, and Trump was the main speaker. And I gave my talk in the morning, and I had to fly out to another gig, and I missed him by about a half an hour.
Hmm.
I would love to just meet him, shake hands with him, and thank him. That's one person I'd like to meet. I want to meet Elon Musk and just shake hands with him, just to be in his fucking presence.
Right.
Because what he's done in terms of electric vehicles, I would I like to meet his mentor, Nikola Tesla? Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, there's people that I want to meet, but I can tell you this, I'm friends with Dave Winfield, and he called me the other day, and just to shoot the breeze, I'm like, oh, cool. So I have friends that are,
Shaping the world,
yeah, um,
or
and
have shaped the world, like not just shaping, but shaped.
totally, and are nice people.
Yeah.
I
Well,
only deal with nice people, and I've met artists. I have a lot of friends in New Orleans that are artists, and I'm inspired by them. I have a, love-hate relationship with a few people, but the bottom line is I respect them. If I respect you, I'm hanging with you.
right.
And what people don't know, there's people in the world that are unknown. My best friend is a guy named Wyatt Woodsmall, who you don't know. Wyatt Woodsmall taught Tony Robbins NLP.
Hmm.
And Wyatt and I talk every night at 10 o'clock, no matter what,
Wow.
10 o'clock Eastern.
Right.
So if it's Paris, she's still calling me, in the middle of the night. And I don't care. I get to talk to one of the smartest people ever, ever. His insight, his inspiration. And we're both on the same political side of the fence. So we talk about that. We talk about life. We talk about relationships. We talk about, what's going on in the world. And he's in his 80s. But every night we talk. Every single freaking night at 10 o'clock. Either I call him or he calls me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Jeffrey, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and
Fine. Yeah,
I
well, I'm waxed out here. We need to do it again because there are topics that we didn't cover that I think would help people travel, for example. I'm a 3 million mile flyer, and I get on an airplane and it's like a bus.
yeah,
Some seats are wider, they're called first class, but it's all bullshit. I just want to get from point A to point B. And
well,
what people don't know, you read my Wikipedia page, I was banned on US Airways for 11 months, and now they're no longer in existence, and I'm the only person ever banned on US Airways.
really,
Come on. What a fucking badge of honor that is.
that is a badge of honor.
It is.
So I know we stated a couple of times how people can reach you, but what's the preferred way people can follow us?
Just go to Gitomer.com.
That's what I thought. Okay. And what quote do you live by?
What do I live by?
What's your quote?
Um, there are several quotes that I live by, many of which are my own. My favorite one of my own is, people will rain on your parade because they have no parade of their own.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really good. And the Woody Allen quote, I don't know whether I gave it at the beginning of the talk or not, but you're only young once, but you can always be immature.
I
And
love that.
it's one of my favorite things on the planet. But Jim Rohn is like the go-to guy. And there's 20 of his quotes. And if you don't know who Jim Rohn is, ROHN, just go and get his stuff.
Well, I'll give you one of my favorite I'm living by right now, which
Dude.
I should say that it's motivating me and I'm not letting go of it. It's happiness is when what you think and what you say and what you do are in harmony. And that's from
Yeah.
That's from Gandhi.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. I'm blown away by the things that are said, and they don't acknowledge the writer. that pisses me off worse than anything.
Yeah.
Uh, it's seek first to understand, then be understood. People think Stephen Covey said that. It was said by St. Francis of Assisi in 1100.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Be aware that sometimes it's not always the guy.
Well, the next show we might do live, but I would love to do a show on travel. I've been to 104 countries, so you're not going to have a bigger fan of that topic.
Cool.
And it's just a pleasure talking with you, Jeff.
Hey, my pleasure, Ken.
Thank
you.
you.
Take care of yourself.
Have a great day.
Stay away from idiots.
I'll try. Take care.